It is the fourth model in Horuma Rin's 7 Lucky Gods series. It is SFJ03 Ebisu Shichifuku, with a kit of Fight, Full Charge, Beam Sword, Armor Drain, Sea Legs, and the leg ability of Through Fight, which gives a chance for melee skills to ignore defense when attacking. Now, as yet another installment in Horuma Rin's iconic series through Medarot S, it is nice to see yet another personification of a legendary series very well known in that part of the world. That being said, when it comes to nasty skills though, Ebisu here is certainly no exception to this, and I'd like to argue out of the 4 that we've had thus far, this model in particular might be just the nastiest to date with the most well-rounded moveset. Full Charge is a special skill that we have not seen very often, if at all. Simply put, it is full charge plus fight boost all in one, but it also applies a negative effect due to being 2 buffs in one, and that means it will apply Melt to self while filling up the user's Metaforce gauge and applying Fight Boost, which is about 20% or so to melee damage to self once activated. Right Arm of Beam Sword is a melee skill that is an optic attribute, which means it gets a times 2 damage bonus at 30% charge and a times 3 damage bonus at 100% charge, which means even right just from start, Fight Full Charge plus Beam Sword is a very, very nasty combo, which already makes Ebisu here very, very dangerous and a very big force to be reckoned with and not one to be taken lightly. But that's most certainly not all. Ebisu here is also packing a brand new skill to the game called Armor Drain, which simply put and is as simple as it sounds, when attacking a target it will sap a certain percentage of the damage dealt to restore lost HP to self. However, it does also consume 10 CG from your Metaforce gauge in order to do so. If no Metaforce is consumed upon using this attack, no HP is sapped and recovered. So it's simply it's a very interesting contingency to make use of. Sea Legs means that Ebisu will have relatively solid coverage across most terrains, but arguably I have to say he has probably some of the best basic Sea Legs to date for a number of factors which I will get to in just a moment. Not even touching on the very nice leg ability of Through Fight 2, which rounds out his kit very, very nicely. Now, between Fight Full Charge, Beam Sword, and Armor Drain, again, he rounds himself out very nicely, because even after using Fight Full Charge and applying Melt to self, he can use Armor Drain to essentially restore back some of his lost HP over time once it starts getting to a point where it might be potentially dangerous for him. But when it comes to HP, he certainly is no pushover either. With hit HP at 5650 thereabout, arms about 4250 each, and legs at about 4750, he's definitely packing a lot of nice armor, which will make fighting this one relatively tough at first glance if you don't pay attention to what you're doing. And of course, a base power of almost 1600 for that right arm is really, really good. Normally, right arms tend not to be super strong or have a very high base power, usually in favor of having high base power on the left arm or the head. So having almost base 1600 on a right arm, non-heavy no less, is very nice. An Armor Drain, even if it doesn't have a really high base power, and even then 1400 or so is nice on that left arm. The contingency for the Armor Drain is going to be interesting to see in action once he does officially go live. But let's look at his leg stats for a minute and kind of showcase and explain why I think he's probably the best model we've had of the 7 Lucky God series to date. He's already starting off the bat with 2 heavy slots where he's only using 1, and he's also starting at a base mobility of 841. Now normally Sea Legs tend to go no higher than 500 or 600 at best. So having someone at mid 800s is a very nice point here, especially not even touching on any incoming terrain bonuses or Medarot bonuses to go with it. A melee resist of 893 isn't too shabby. Now he'll be just a little bit squishy up close and personal, but not enough that'll very easily cripple him. But a shoot resist of almost 2000 actually makes him very, very tanky to incoming shooting attacks, which will be a very good way to counter out some of his and kind of round out his coverage a little better. While up close and personal, it will be hard to produce damage. From afar, he can handle himself very nicely. And naturally, being a sea leg, he will have a very high evade stat of over 1900 in this case. So very nice leg stats, very high armor pool across all parts too, and a very, very good base power in addition to all of this. That being said, as a pure set score, I do honestly have to rate Ebisu Shichifuku a very, very solid 8.8 out of 10, and some arguments could even be made for 8.5 or even a 9 out of 10 in some cases, because compared to most other models which specialize in coverage or interruption one way or another, such as, say, Ben 10 Sada with force control and static, or even Juronanchi with coverage between revive and suction, this Ebisu here specializes instead in raw nuking power with very good coverage to round himself out. Fight full charge will fill his gauge up 100% and give him fight boost on top of that, even at the cost of the melt DOT to himself. Beam sword will very easily complement and nicely complement the full charge effect that he just granted to himself with damage bonuses. An armor drain also is nice so that he can restore any lost HP over time once his pools start getting rather low over extended use. Plus, the sea legs mean that he will have very solid coverage across most terrains, and the through fight ability makes his already dangerous melee kit even better to use because he has a chance he can bypass any shields that are in play and ignore defense when attacking. As mixed parts, I do have to rate him easily, very, very easily, a 9 out of 10. Because even though together he uses his parts with very, very good synergy, which we really don't see super often in bots like this, his parts are also very easily capable and very versatilely used in other sets. Beam Sword, of course, because it's non-heavy, will fit just about anywhere very easily. Fight full charge for your Metaforce reliant melee nukers. Sea legs, I really can't emphasize enough, are probably one of the best sea legs that we've had to date. An armor drain is a very interesting skill I can't say too much about right now, but it will be interesting to see that once it does go live and see how it will affect the incoming meta.